Project Sumatra started as something completely different from what it is now. This was a collaboration of scientists, industry professionals, and just passionate people. It created this really nice, rounded project that was in no way biased towards finding a point of blame. It was trying to work with people and identify the issues that were there. When the issues were identified, then who was working to do what? Who was there to try and solve these issues? The people we included within this documentary, the organisations, were a complete inspiration, and it's really their story that we're telling. The project focuses on individuals, organisations, and without these people here now, there is no doubt that the orangutan would have disappeared many years ago. The thing that kick-started it all was just one post on social media, and it was the fact that these massive forest fires which were destroying the rainforest had no coverage whatsoever. And it was only by chance that I heard about it. So I decided that if there wasn't coverage, then we would give it coverage, and that's how Project Sumatra started. The most inspiring thing that has driven me to work within conservation has been the wildlife documentaries that I've watched from a very young age. So I've always had a massive passion to make my own documentary. Initially, it started as an idea of this is what I wanted to do, this is how I wanted it to look in the end, but getting to actually starting to make a documentary, it still seemed so far away and I didn't really know what to do. So I looked for people who were inspirations to me, or people who were experts within the field, and one of the first opportunities that came up was to meet Ian Redmond. I was studying at the time at Rees College and Chester University, and they held an evening to like a discussion evening with Ian Redmond, and he was going through the work that he had done.
The Sumatran orangutan is critically endangered. Its numbers have been declining. And we know this because Sumatra has one of the highest rates of deforestation in the world. Curiously though, the estimate today is twice what it was a few years ago. And that's just because more research has been done, so we've done better surveys, and we know now that there are something like 13,000 Sumatran orangutans. But that population on Sumatra is now divided into two, because the most southerly population has just been described as a new species of orangutan. So in fact, when we talk about Sumatran orangutans now, we have to think of two species.
So after the Ian Redmond interview, I was still studying and I was working at Lush. And the concept of Project Sumatra was constantly changing, constantly developing in my head. and he was always looking for the next person to interview or how to, involve any part of my life and guide it towards making Project Sumatra into a real thing, not just these thoughts and these sort of ideas within my head. So while working at Lush, there was the opportunity to talk to the head of the sourcing department, and I knew that this company was working to reduce or remove all palm oil from their products, and this had been like an active stance that they had taken. I also knew that they worked in Sumatra, so I started to put out some feelers and started to try and pull Project Sumatra into my part-time job of selling soap. And this worked really well, actually. I ended up getting this brilliant interview with someone who was extremely knowledgeable from not a primatology or conservation side of things, but from an industry approach.
There's often a reason that people are encroaching into rainforests or that people are growing palm. It's because they need to generate income and make a living, and just saying no, it's not very practical or helpful. So it's a lot about showing alternative models as well, ways that things can be grown and produced in harmony, more sustainable ways of living. That doesn't mean you need to keep going further and further across the borders into the forest, destroying natural habitat. So there's a lot of projects on the ground. One that we work with as well, we've created a permaculture demonstration site in Guylawares with OIC, the Orangutan Information Centre, that are actually showing different ways of growing things, making sure that you have your food sovereignty, you're taking care of your food needs first, able to grow cash crops, products that are plants that will be able to generate an income or that you could do value adding to as well. It's showing practical examples of how you can grow without using chemicals, without using pesticides, without chopping down trees. So it's trying to show that there's a way of working in harmony with nature and still being able to make a good living. And I think that practical example is really important.
From the interviews that were carried out, there was organisations that were mentioned within Sumatra that were integral to the conservation of the Sumatran orangutan, and one of these was the OIC. I contacted the OIC and was hoping for really a bit of guidance. They were absolutely incredible and developed a schedule with me, but the interesting thing was that they asked me what I wanted to film and asked me the key things that I thought were really important that Project Sumatra really stood for, and the only thing I could say to them was, I am completely here to learn off you. This is what I know, but I would prefer to follow your lead on this. These are the guys on the ground. These are the people doing all of the work, and who knows better than them? This was where I really knew that Project Sumatra had turned into something real and something tangible. To raise all the funds for Project Sumatra, it was always the idea to try and use it as an educational tool even before it was ready, because in case it didn't come off, I'd still like to have spread some sort of awareness. So this was a great opportunity to hold as many events as we possibly could and try and fundraise off the back of it. And I'm not even sure how many we did in the end, but there was everything from coffee evenings in my mum's house to large-scale art auctions where people were incredibly generous, and we were able to raise enough funds to go out there and to buy the equipment that we needed.
Jack, what are you doing? I'm just prepping up some of this stuff now, so just checking we've got everything and haven't left anything in Edinburgh, and going through all the rest of the bits of footage we went through last time, just to make sure I have a full understanding of exactly what we need for this trip. And as you can see, we're pretty much all packed. We've just got a few more little bits to chuck together, and then we're pretty much there.
The Orangutan Information Center is one of the grassroots NGO, local-based NGO in Medan that established and dedicated for the protections of the Sumatran orangutan and the forest home. We've been working together with the authorities, the government, partners of NGO, and especially the local people to be able to protect the tropical rainforest of Sumatra, the wildlife, and especially the orangutan. We are really important as organizations that not only work in the ground level, but also can be able to be the local warrior that always stays here, alert to protect the forest.
Well, the Sumatran orangutan, like all species that live in tropical forests, is suffering from the human propensity for converting forests into agriculture, putting roads through which then divides the forest, and the loss of habitat, the fragmentation of habitat, are the main threats. Now, what's causing that? It is the global demand for products that are grown in what was tropical forest habitat. The forest is removed, so the orangutans have no home, nor indeed do the Sumatran elephants, the Sumatran tigers, or the other species, Sumatran rhinos. They're all losing their habitat. And the market forces that are driving that conversion are derived from the developed world.
Leading on from habitat loss, one of the most driving forces behind this was the encroachment of human settlements or of industry into these areas of sort of primary rainforest. And you'd see this on small scales with small villages, where you'd see bits of land cleared and shelters and houses and farmland being cleared on a small scale. And then you'd see these monumental mass clearing events to have a brand spanking new palm oil plantation.
In Sumatra, there are some inspirational conservationists, some of whom put their lives literally on the line. And it's the Indonesian conservationists that are right at the front of that very difficult effort to prevent short-term thinking. And the organizations based in the UK or in North America, in the developed world, are working with Indonesian counterpart organizations. And they're the ones who are going to inherit the problem if we don't solve it, and be part of the solution if we do.
Part of the documentary, we wanted to cover the wildlife trade, which extends into every possible species you could think of in Sumatra. When we were there, we had the opportunity to do some undercover filming within some of the markets in Sumatra, which was extremely distressing to see the animals in such poor conditions. The problem not being isolated to one singular species only makes it even harder to solve. This is only going to be tackled by education and by trying to spread the message of sustainability without exploitation of the natural world.
So we're on our way now to get down to the orangutan, get this rescue underway. Jack's got all his gear ready. Here we are. Yep. Good to go. Keep motion with us as well. It's all ready. It's all ready.
It's empty for now, but soon, hopefully, we'll have an orangutan.
So we're right beneath the male orangutan and the female and the baby. And we're just waiting for the veterinary team to dart them so that relocation can get underway.
When an orangutan comes into an area of potential conflict, the OIC is called, and they work with locals to first find where the animal is and then extract it from that area safely. They will dart the animal usually and sedate it, catch it in a net, health check it, and decide whether this animal can be released straight back into the wild, into primary habitat outside of this conflict zone. The environment within Sumatra is so incredibly rich that it's a great asset to them. So this is a form of protection in itself. Having this resource that they can sell to people around the world is incredible. And this was the case with Borneo as well, and the Bornean orangutan. A similar thing happened there, and tourism has played an integral part in the protection of the species. Now, tourism or ecotourism unchecked can be very, very damaging and can have the opposite effect of what we would want to try and create, which is sustainable income that protects the natural environment. We saw this where they were promoting feeding stations within areas of relative high density for orangutans. And what they found was that the behavior of the orangutans completely changed. They became comfortable around people, and they became so comfortable that there was opportunity for conflict again. And human-wildlife conflict was the last thing that you'd want to promote for sustainable tourism and sustainable protection of the orangutan. So the positives of ecotourism with stricter management has meant that a whole industry has bloomed from this, and it gives people an incentive to protect animals and protect the orangutan and protect the environment that they live in, to offer future jobs and future stability to communities that are built around these. And it means that the destruction and removal of the primary rainforest now isn't the only way to interact with nature, and it doesn't always have to be a negative. And on top of this as well, the fact that people can go and see this absolutely wonderful thing, which is unspoilt primary rainforest, that is special in itself. It's people having a love for them and people really wanting to protect them that is really the reason that we haven't lost it already. Education is obviously a huge thing to the future of conservation and to the future of the natural world, really. Educating people on all levels is fundamental.
My name is Panut Hadi Siswoyo. I'm founder and director of Orangutan Information Center. It's a local NGO that dedicated to conserve the orangutans and their rainforest homes. And here I'm standing on a permaculture site, which was oil palm plantation that we convert to a natural habitat that promote a kind of balance between exploitation of nature in a sustainable way, but at the same time creating space and habitat for wildlife.
I'm Sabar. I'm working for Orangutan Information Center, OIC. We have two permaculture projects in Aceh and in North Sumatra. But now we are in Bukit Mas Permaculture Center in North Sumatra. We have 100 hectares. The place is very close with the looser ecosystem. So from 100 hectares, we separate 50% for restoration and other 50% for agroforestry system. With all of that will be designed by permaculture concept.
My name is Darsimah Sihaan. Now we are in Sekolah Alam Loser, one of nature school in North Sumatra Utara. OIC has one program for education, but before just the program only intensive activity about education. So we are thinking to make something different. So we build the school, and the target is local people around here, so they know what the function of the national park. Till now we have 22 students will be joined. That's the good news for us.
In 100 hectares of BVC, 50 hectares we will restore to make the restoration project. And we do it together with the restoration team of OIC, and also is supported by the student of Sekolah Alam Loser also, because every week they bring the seedling, they bring the fruit trees, they bring the trees, and we plant together in the restoration area.
It does seem, when you look at the photographs of orangutans and watch the documentaries from the comfort of a living room in Britain or North America or in Japan, that it's a distant problem. It's way down in Southeast Asia, it's nothing to do with us. And yet our purchases every day are driving the economic machine that is converting orangutan habitat into plantations. So what we can all do as consumers of those products is shop carefully and tell companies why you're not buying their product.
Project Sumatra tried to give a well-rounded view of the issues that were facing the Sumatran orangutan. There is absolutely no way that we could cover everything. We tried to pick key points that we thought were most vital, going off the guidance of people who are working on the ground. But there is 101 issues that we didn't cover and we couldn't cover. This is a global problem, and it's tackled in different ways in different parts of the world. And the contribution of people working in Sumatra is just as vital as people living in the West or living anywhere in the world. It isn't the people of Sumatra's problem, it's everyone's problem, and everyone can be the solution.